Hello, and don't worry, today is going to be a great day. Today we are back with another book club video. Why am I doing this with my hands, you may ask? I have no idea. This month we'll be discussing Soon I Will Be Invincible by Austin Grossman, and next month we'll be discussing The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. As always, I will leave a link to both these books in the description below, and this video will contain spoilers. I wanted to read a superhero novel because that was my NaNoWriMo project. I got somewhere between a third and a half of a way into it. I actually kind of got to the part right before they start doing the super stuff. You know, the actual hero-y thing. So I figured I should probably read a superhero novel or two to have a little bit of reference of how other people do it. I found it difficult to find a superhero novel to begin with. Most books that I looked at were graphic novels or comics, which, you know, makes sense because there's a lot of action and imagery can be very powerful. Words have a tendency to slow it down, and if you're not too descriptive, then no one can tell what's happening, and that's also part of the whole action thing. I think that more visual format is better for superhero movies. I'm still gonna plow ahead. I ended up reading Soon I Will Be Invincible to compare another novel version to it. And while I really enjoyed the story, I actually didn't really like the book that much. I think it was more the writing style. It just felt really choppy to me. It was a dual perspective book, so not only did you have to deal with being in a different character's eyes every other chapter and adjusting to that, but one of those perspectives were the villain, and the other perspective was like a new hero coming in. She was actually a cyborg that they brought onto the team after their last computer person died. Well, I like that theory of one of the good guys you get to see through and one of the bad guys you get to see through. I just felt like the way it was written left too many gaps between the action to the point where you didn't really understand what was going on for either of them. The book was around 350-ish pages. I kind of wish that would have been bumped up a little bit more, just to add an extra chapter in here or there to kind of bridge the gap between the action just a little bit more, because like I said, I just found it a little difficult to keep up with what was actually going on because it just was a little too jarring and just skipped a little too much. At first, I couldn't actually tell when anything was happening because you would go to a new chapter and then read and then figure out, okay, well, when is this happening? Because parts of it would sound like they're talking about something that happened way in the past, but in reality, it's like on the right timeline. Other things is like, oh, is what's happening because it's like right after a battle, and it's like, but you didn't do a battle, and then I'm questioning, well, was it an old battle that we read? Is it right after that? Just, I think the timeline didn't work very well. I really do think they skipped a few things they shouldn't have. And a lot of the scenes that it felt like they skipped were scenes that could have really helped you understand the characters more. But besides the timeline issues, I really did like that dual point of view. It was really just the timeline that was holding it back. For example, the giant battle at the end was in Fatal's point of view, but she missed half the battle. I kind of wish there would have been an extra chapter in there where I could have seen from Dr. Impossible's side of it as well. I wanted to see the start of that battle. I wanted to see what was going through his head when he saw Fatal charging him, knowing that he could stop her just with a click of a button. Like, that would have been so funny to read. I would have loved to see the aftermath of the attack. His thoughts as he locked them in individual cages with their own weaknesses. Him thinking he's won and that he's so smart. It would have been really funny and add a lot more to his character. Speaking of battles, I actually thought they were very unique and kind of witty. They weren't too drawn out, and they didn't really slow the pace. They were engaging enough to keep my interest, yet they didn't feel underdeveloped. I think I actually preferred Dr. Impossible's perspective for battles because he's a lot more clever than most of the other characters, so I think he poses this really interesting sort of scrappy feel to his style of fighting. I like to see how he interprets the situation and kind of wiggles his way out of it. Because that's really what he does. He kind of wiggles his way out of it by pure wit. Just by making the weirdest decision you can imagine and actually sticking to it. The one thing I wish I would have gotten more was more interaction between Fatal and Dr. Impossible. They only really met twice in the book. Once of which he was pressing a button to take her out and lasted 2 seconds. And the second was her punching him. She didn't even say anything to him, really. I think if he had done literally anything with her, whether it be kidnap her or use her or something, it would have really enhanced the story and made her a lot more significant of a character. Because right now she kind of feels like a fly on the wall. Even though she is there, she just doesn't feel like the main character, like a superhero. She's just kind of there, you know? So having him do something with her would have made her a lot more significant to the plot, which I think could have really enhanced the book overall. I also thought it left a lot of unanswered questions as well. Like, what's the whole deal with Lily/Erica, who was clearly the same person? Did Firecore/Jason not realize it was her? But they dated in the past. Did she like Dr. Impossible, or was she just flirting with him for the sake of flirting with him? I mean, she didn't really appear to like Jason that much, but then why was she with him all the time? I mean, he was also in that gifted school, so he should have pieced more things together. I mean, he had to know that Lily and Erica were the same person, right? And then when Jonathan took off his mask, did Jason just not recognize the very guy who gave him his powers? I just found that entire aspect of it to be kind of confusing, in that how was Dr. Impossible the only one who knew when he went to a school and was surrounded by other smart people that are main characters in the book as well? It's just kind of weird. And I feel like the book didn't really do that good of a job of wrapping that up and kind of summarizing really what was going on and kind of, you know, wrapping up those loose ends. But that's just my opinion. What did you think of the book? Do you think this book would be better in like a movie format or a comic format? Well, that's gonna be it for now. A smiley farewell. And always remember, nothing is ever only one thing.